So RocGrowth, for those of you who are not as familiar perhaps as some others, it's about empowering the new Rochester. We like to instigate creative collisions. So I hope all of you leave here having met a neighbor, someone who lives in Rochester who you didn't know before. We like highlighting our community's great innovators and creatives. And everything we do is informed by promoting greater equality of race, class, gender, and age. So tonight's topic is community building, innovative community builders. And I have three friends here. People I'm fortunate again to be friends with and neighbors of. So we have Renee Long and Andrea Westerlund and Quajay Donnell, and they'll tell a little bit more about themselves. But first, I want to highlight for a moment why community is important enough for Vans to build community sneakers. So I bought these like a year ago, and I was like, what's drawing me to that? I like building community rather than destroying it. And it seems like that's a human nature as well. But I think community, the nature and the health of community reflects on the health of a city and the larger region. And, communities are affinity organizations such as one's church. The Bills, tailgating, that's a community, right? It's hobbies, people who enjoy knitting together. And one of my favorites, believe it or not, is Alexis de Tocqueville, who was a very keen observer. Almost 200 years ago, he published Democracy in America. And it's still read today as required material in certain classes. And he observed that America had a propensity for forming voluntary organizations, civic associations. In fact, Ben Franklin started a library, then a volunteer fire department. That doesn't happen across the world. They leave it up to either it doesn't happen or they leave it up to a governmental entity. And, community builds social cohesion and self-governance, a democratic society. So, as I stated, RocGrowth is about empowering new Rochester. These are newer community builders, and I welcome you. So thank you for helping create the new Rochester. So let's go down. Let's start with Quajay. Who are you?
Can you hear me? This is great. They just handed me the microphone and said start to talk. I thought I was going to have a warm up and let other folks go before me, and I can build off of that. But my name is Quajay. Most folks know me by my first name, but I am Quajay Donnell. I do a lot of different things in Rochester. What folks may know me for mostly is photography. So I do a lot of photography, gravitated towards public art, and public art led me into different communities. So documenting, the art amongst us. The reason why I'm on the panel today is I work with a partner, Richard Cologne, who founded a small gallery downtown in the Mercantile on Main, so the Sibley building called Behind the Glass. And in that space, every month we bring 3 artists to the walls. And so we curate that space. And most of the artists that we're bringing into that space are folks who maybe have never shown their works publicly. This is the first time they've printed work out. This is the first time they've framed it. This is the first time they've shared it with folks. And then there are some other folks that come into that space who have shown their work maybe once or twice, or maybe it's been 20 years or so since they've done something publicly. And the kind of how that came about was just, we spent a lot of time on social media during the COVID years, and saw a lot of different people getting out and taking photographs and showing Rochester in different ways, and really wanted to give them a space and a physical place to really do that. And so Honored to be here today and kind of talk a little bit more about community and what we're doing in that space. Yeah.
I am Andrea Westerlund, and I am just one small fraction of the team that puts together Flower Power magazine, which is a love letter to Rochester, New York. Our tagline is "Cool shit in Rochester." What it does is on the tin. So we tell stories about people, projects, places, organizations that aren't getting the attention they deserve, which is so many things in Rochester. But ultimately, the goal of our magazine is to show people that you don't have to live in like a fancy city or have a ton of money or have a fancy degree. You can do amazing things right here in Rochester with the resources and the community around you. And we're just sharing those stories. So that's who I am.
All right, can you guys give it up for Richard for having us all here and bringing us? I am so super excited about being here. I'm gonna stick to the question. He basically asked me who I was. He told me my question before I came, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of who I am. I'm here from Clarissa Street Legacy. That's number one. But who am I? I'm Renee Catherine Dexter Long. I'm the mother of Robert Kobe Demarion Long, Bryce Calvin Cade Long, and Colton Isaac James Long. I am the daughter of Robert Dexter Jr. and Catherine Elizabeth Sprague Dexter. And I would be remiss if I left out my stepfather, Isaac Walker, because I am a product of his tutelage. I am the granddaughter of Beatrice Baker Sprague and James Earl Sprague. And I say these names with pride. I am the great-granddaughter of Margaret Boyd Sprague and Robert Elliott Sprague. I am the great-great-granddaughter of Alfred Sprague and Lucy Earl Sprague. I say this to say I am a part of the legacy, just a small part, but the legacy continues.
Thank you. So we're going to go the other way now. So tell me, what is the Clarissa Street Legacy project? For those who are not, how many are familiar with the Clarissa Street reunion? How many have attended? Well, it's going to continue. So yeah.
So Clarissa Street started as well, the part that I'm a part of is called the Clarissa Street Legacy. It started as the Clarissa Street Reunion Committee. And as you guys may know, that a lot of my elders have gotten older. Some have passed away. We just recently had a huge individual in our community, James Blunt, pass away. He wrote the About Time magazine, and my mother and another gentleman, Mr. Fortinet, came and asked, could I be a part of the Clarissa Street Reunion Committee? And being the daughter that I am, sure, Mom, I'll help out. And through the times that we sat and we talked about it, it became aware that we needed to change from Clarissa Street Reunion Committee, because it wasn't just about the committee or the reunion anymore. It was going to be about a legacy. It was going to be about continuing and understanding what Clarissa Street was all about. You guys may not know about it, and I think I'll have some more time today to tell you, but Clarissa Street Legacy is about continuing the legacy and understanding of what happened in the 3rd Ward in this city that most of you may not know. I will go back into the history, but I want to make sure everybody else gets a chance to speak.
Thank you. So I want you to explain, what's interesting here is you're addressing a neighborhood and the essence of a neighborhood and its role to Rochester and all is something important. Both of you, I would say, are aligned in terms of building community around artists and creatives. And I would like to discuss for a moment what has called you to build community around the arts. I've known you, Andrea, for a bit. I've known Quajay a little longer. Your passion is so visible, and it's been evident for a while. So please explain the art community. What is calling you to actually personally build one in Rochester? Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. The arts community is the first time, when I was welcomed by the arts community in particular in Rochester, it was the first time that I had felt at home. And so I am an artist. I love creative people, not just, painters and writers and whatnot, but I feel like a lot more people are creative than give themselves credit for. But it was when I started getting to know artists that I realized, wow, there's so many people doing things that I have no clue about, and I should know about these things because they're amazing. And then I started to peek a little bit more into the business community and to the nonprofit community, and I realized there was tons of people doing cool things that nobody was talking about. And I get it, media is understaffed and misprioritized, but there are enough amazing stories to keep the magazine busy for years and years and years and years. But the Rochester art community welcomed me with open arms, and I'm just trying to give a little bit of love back.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the Rochester art community is, I consider myself a person who likes to document moments, right? So a photographer in the simplest terms. But the Rochester art community is a community that said, oh no, you're an artist too, right? What you're doing is important as well. And it's documenting a moment, documenting a space. And really what I gravitate towards, and this is in visual artists, performing artists, and everyone else in between, is elevating the community, right? And so in the gallery that we run, we have really focused mostly on photographers because that's who's in our circle. That's the folks that we know best. And what really gravitated us towards a lot of the folks that have been in this space is that they are photographing and documenting all of Rochester, right? People have heard me say, a million times, there's some amazing places in Rochester, but there's only a handful of photos taken of a handful of places, right? The skyline is so beautiful, but there's so much more than the Rochester skyline. There's so much more than High Falls. There's so much more than the view from Cobb's Hill, all very beautiful. But there's also a bodega in the 19th Ward. There's also a family and a community on Joseph Avenue. There's also, someone who is enjoying the city somewhere else, right? And so being able to document those moments and document and show those spaces is what I enjoy most about the art community, because it's an inclusive community. It's a community that is living and breathing right here in Rochester, that maybe sometimes they don't get the shine. If you're ever out on a First Friday, and if you've never been out on a First Friday, I would encourage you strongly, because there's such a buzz in the city where people are like, well, it's not really much going on. First Fridays, man, a lot of things are happening. A lot of people are showing up, and whether they're performing or they're showing something on the wall, or they're choosing to be here in Rochester, as opposed to saying, you know what, in order for me to be able to showcase my art, I need to go to Chicago, I need to go to LA. No, you can do it right here in this city. There's space for it, and being able to elevate that in a small way is me kind of giving back to what Rochester has given to me over the years.
Cool. I identified the three of you because you're leaders, and we all know a leader is a convenient way of distilling down a movement. And I want to talk about, how you've assembled this community. And you all have different styles, but I'm looking up there. Certainly, we featured a whole bunch of influential individuals in the arts community. We had Blue Cease, who I think deserves credit for launching First Friday years ago, or at least helping it, achieve what it has presently. Sarah Rutherford and others. But I want to talk, and this applies to both of you, how you've assembled your team, who are your partners, who are your community partners? Because ultimately, I want to generate a conversation on how we might assist you. What are the deficits, the holes, and how we might be able to contribute. So Talk about, your team, building up your team, and some of the other resources that have provided you support.
Okay, so Clarissa Street Legacy is basically a committee that comes together to bring awareness about the third ward. All right, so some of our partners, Teen Empowerment actually did a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful documentary on Clarissa Street. If you haven't seen it, you can go to the Teen Empowerment. It's called Uprooted. We actually had a exhibit downtown last year, and it's phenomenal. The exhibit itself is going to be at the Rundell Library for the next year, and one of our charges is to try to find a permanent home for that. Another partner that we've partnered with was RocGrowth. They actually helped with the artistry part of the reunion and having a videographer take all the videos and the pictures so that we can continue to know that this is happening. We have a partnership with the guy standing back there in the back, Cooley Comics. My charge right now is to try and see if we can turn Clarissa Street into a comic book. I'm a teacher by trade, and I have 3 sons, and I know that history may not be the most important thing to them, but in order for them to actually take in the information, they need it placed in a way that they can receive it. They love graphic novels. They love comic books. That's how they're going to get this information. Clarissa Street is, if any of you, I don't know, raise your hand if you've ever heard of Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. You have your own Black Wall Street right here. Clarissa Street literally was the same thing. They didn't blow Clarissa Street up with a bomb like they did there. They used the 490 interchange to move out that entire group of families of African Americans, of business owners. The street was phenomenal. We had, I say we because, like I told you before, those are my elders. Those are my people. And when I think about it, it hurts my heart to know that they had gas stations, they had cleaners, they had grocery stores. George Fontenette's family had probably 3 or 4 businesses on that street. My grandparents and my great-grandparents owned their own home there, and they were basically told they had to go. Why? So we had our own here, and making sure that you guys know this information is so important to me, and that's why I do what I do. That's why I make the connections that I make. That's why I'm here, because I want you guys to know. Cornhill has been a great help to us. Even though they might have been a part of the problem, they're actually trying to repair some of that harm, and I appreciate that. JW Consultants, they've been a part of it. They had some young youth come and be on our stage. We have so many partnerships in this community, and we just want to make sure that we keep doing that.
When you say part of the problem, Cornhill, I mean, there's nuance. I'm not sure. I just want to, those nice housing units that were built, I think, in the 1980s were built as a result of the evictions and the urban renewal project. And let's say the occupants of those homes are a little different from the individuals who might have resided in that neighborhood before all this disruption took place.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's why I say they've come on along, and they're trying to make right of the wrongs that were done before. And it's appreciated, and we're going to work together forever. If I'm involved in it, they're going to continue, and we're going to continue to build that relationship. And I'm so happy the city actually helped out with a lot of it. We're working towards having a great understanding of what happened here and how to not let it happen again.
So I want to move to the arts section of the panel for a moment, and I don't want to create a false equivalency, but the arts sector and the artists, many members of the arts community feel that they've been shortchanged over the years as well. So I believe the work you're doing, is something that advances and recognizes the arts. So I want to hear more about your team building and who supported you through your work. And Quajay, feel free to go beyond the glass because you do so many other things. But it could be Andrea first, whomever.
Andrea just keeps handing me the microphone. The microphone goes left and right. Yeah, so I'll start with Behind the Glass was never intended to be more than a month, and we're now in our 10th month, right?
Right
And
on.
so that is an accomplishment in itself. The folks at the Mercantile on Main have been gracious enough to partner with us to use that space. And so prior to us coming in and putting new art on the wall every month, the space didn't have anything, or it had, just a couple of things, and there wasn't really a rhyme or reason in terms of, the monthly process. And so we were able to come into that space and, really kind of curate a space, but also creating for artists if they wanted to. Richard has done a fantastic job with this. If you produce something, you should be compensated for it, right? And so Richard is kind of creating this this commerce for folks. So I'm saying, hey, you've never printed out your work before, you've never kind of gone through this process. Let me show you how I've done it. And so help them building a website. It's simple as just a Square website, right? Here is how you can do orders and prints on demand, this rather than having things in inventory. And so being able to create that. So a lot of what we've done is really grassroots. So it's Richard and I. Richard does a lot.
Richard C.
Richard Cologne, sorry. Richard Cologne is not Richard Glacier. But Richard Cologne has done a lot of the groundwork. So he does a lot of the organizing of the artist, a lot of those things. I do some of the behind the scenes pieces. So, social media promotion, interacting with folks. We also do a monthly podcast where we dig a little deeper into, what motivates the folks that are creating. But also, a lot of the people are doing this as a passion project. And so that's really what we've been doing. We plan on going into year 2. So we have a celebration coming up in January, which will celebrate all of the artists from 2023. So we've just come off of a GoFundMe, a lot of small donations, which was really great, so that we're able to fund that portion of the project. So the partnerships have just really been, the artists that we're working with. So they've, kind of come into the fold and have helped. We've got Matt here, one of our featured artists, and so many other folks that, they have become part of that community and they want to, help elevate and lift up other folks.
January 5th, first Friday, 2024. The first Friday is the event you're referencing, correct?
Yep, Behind the Glass celebration. So, and then we'll roll right into February with another 3 artists and, kind of continue on after that. The idea, for Behind the Glass, again, is just to elevate folks. But also as we get into this space where, is there another potential for a larger gallery? Is there a potential to go, here's, one gallery space that has these 3 new featured artists and another gallery space that has, maybe someone who's been featured previously that, kind of going into solo shows and things like that. But really it's about, saying, hey, there's value in what you do, right? And the thought really came from, Richard having a solo show at a coffee shop at Ugly Duck, right? It was like, wow, this is a really cool experience. I didn't think anybody wanted to see my work. I had a solo show last year at Fisher, and it was like, wow, this is interesting. I'm printing out work and I'm putting it on a wall and people are commenting on it. What if we give that opportunity to other folks? What if other folks have the same opportunity to do that and have been able to collaborate with other folks and being able to really elevate that? Outside of Behind the Glass, I do a lot of, documentation of public art in Rochester. I think about Clarissa as an example, right? So art has been a part of that process, right? There's that beautiful mural on Broad Street, right? Ephraim Gabray, who's done a handful of murals around Rochester. So here's another element. People are curious. There's a QR code. They're able to interact with that. There's also the mural right in the community that was done by Rock Paint Division folks through Wall Therapy. So another connection of storytelling using public art as a means. And that's how Rochester became home to me when I started seeing, wow, there's these stories. Why is this person on the side of a building? Who's this artist? And tell me more, and really understanding in that way. But art is huge, and I know you kind of talked about that a little bit, but I think the Clarissa project and what they did through the exhibit, but also just some of those public pieces that, if you don't have a membership to get into a space or if the building is closed, guess what? That wall on Broad Street is open all the time. You're able to walk up to it and interact with it.
By the way, it's intentionally located near the results of urban renewal, underneath the overpass on 490, sort of proximate to where RIT was located when RIT resided in Cornhill. So there's so much steeped in history. So Andrea. Yeah.
Yeah. So who do we partner with? It would be easier to say who we don't partner with, because we work with anybody and everybody in the magazine. Wouldn't be possible without the community. RocGrowth has been a huge help. Local businesses, local vintage shops agreed to carry the magazine for us. But I mean, there's at least 5 or 6 people in this room who have contributed to the magazine, and hopefully many more who will in the future. So it's completely based on community submissions. And so we would be a sad little 4-page magazine if it was just up to me writing something and putting it in. So we ask, and Rochester delivers every time. And the most amazing stories come out of, when we put out our ask on social media for new content. We get amazing stories, but a lot of our content comes from events like this. You meet somebody and somebody tells you a story and they don't think it's cool, but in my mind I'm like, what are you talking about? That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. Can I write a story about it? Can you write a story about it? Can somebody write a story about it? Can we take photos? Anything. And so it's like this. It's these creative collisions that keep Flower Power full of amazing and inspiring stories. So yeah, we wouldn't be able to do it without the community.
I just want to let you all know they do have day gigs, and consistent with the theme of community building and the reference to Alexis de Tocqueville, these are passion projects, right? And very deep and meaningful. And we have 2 other individuals here who want to share their passion projects with you. And I'm going to call, Alvin, are you ready? Or do you want Max to go first? Or why don't you toss a coin? Who can come up here and stand over here, please?
I got a mic
and we'll
with your
give you
name on
we'll
it.
give you the mic. Yeah, Max? Okay. So in 2 minutes, no more. What do you have to share? Max Irwin.
Hi, everybody. My name's Max, and I'm trying to build a community around the new things that are happening in AI in Rochester, local to Rochester. So local companies, local educators, local students, local people trying to change things in healthcare. So it's a day conference on December 6th at the Little Theater, and the tickets are $40 for professionals, and it's free for students. And if you can't afford a ticket, we'll make sure that you can get a ticket to come. Why should you come? If you want to learn how your life may be impacted, how things are changing, how to ride the wave rather than be crushed by it, trying to understand the ethics, the arts, the healthcare, the education, and how all of this is changing everything. I run a local AI company, and I'm partnering with a lot of other people who are experts in the field and a lot of other community builders in the field. And we're trying to just showcase what's happening, and it's all local to Rochester. Everybody who's participating is from Rochester. We're not flying anybody in, no headline speakers, and it's all community funded. And it's called flowercity.ai. I don't have a QR code. I'm supposed to have a QR code, but flowercity.ai, and we'd love to see you there. Thank you very much.
We will be posting on our social media platforms, all social media platforms, more information about that upcoming event. Oh, wow, we got the team. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alvin Mitchell. I do work in the community. I'm also the face of the nonviolence of Choose Wisdom in Rochester from the city. I barbecue and give away free food at Cobb's Hill. Been out here since I was 13 years old. I'm 53 now, and I'm spreading more love. So just what Rochester need, more love for the kids. It's not that word. You don't hear love no more in the household when you go to school and things like that. So I got a lot of supporters been helping me since I've been here, since the first time I came here. Thank you, Richard, and Bill. Guys helping me with my thing I'm doing. So I appreciate everybody that supported me, and I look forward to being supported more.
So this is real grassroots, and though, yeah, you could applaud. And I want to highlight Bill Wynn. Bill Wynn's become a good friend. We're allies, and Bill Wynn befriended Alvin and introduced him to me. And you're going to stick around. I encourage you to get to know Bill and become acquainted with the work he's done. He's written a book that may be of interest to you. So thanks for all your support. All right. So I want to manage time, and I do want to talk briefly before I open it to Q&A. How important is funding? And how do you get it? And how much more do you need? The business model sort of stuff, maybe, because these things don't just happen. I know Alvin once referenced how you looked up to the sky when I asked you. You remember? How do you fund it? And, I haven't seen dollar bills fall from the sky recently. But please, let's discuss funding.
You got it. All right. Funding. We need it. No, exactly. Well, so as for the magazine, we are currently shifting our business model to more advertising based instead of charging for the magazine because we've always wanted to give the magazine out for free. So we have switched to a more financially sustainable printing process, and we are hoping to, with that, increase our readership so that we can, be more attractive to advertisers. So if you have a small business and you don't have a marketing team, I have some good news for you. You can advertise in Flower Power magazine, and a professional graphic designer will design the ad for you. So if you don't have a marketing team, don't worry about it. We've got you covered, and that is how we can guarantee that not only are the advertisements effective, but they're also beautiful. I don't want anybody to open the magazine and be like smacked in the face with a Van Bortle Subaru ad. I want it to be, beautiful advertisements that people want to look at, that make people want to go to local small businesses. So that's how we're doing it. But I'm really excited to hear about how everybody else is doing it too.
I don't know why she passed it to me.
Oh,
that way. I got you. He's been on you a lot. Gotcha. So the Clarissa Street Legacy Committee, we when I came into this opportunity, I looked at it and said we have to switch how we're getting our funding, because it seemed like every year they were having to basically beg everyone to help them be able to have the reunion. Right, and the reunion is super important because the elders get to come back together. We had it for the first time this year, and I was like smiling from ear to ear because there were elders just all around me, just enjoying each other. Just imagine where you grew up as a kid in your neighborhood, to be able to go back to that every year and have the kids that you grew up with hanging out with each other and talk. Like, it was just so cute to see these older gentlemen just hanging. It was really cute. And then for them to bring their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, to bring it all together. So it's a full circle. So the way that we get our fun is basically we beg for it. But I'm trying to shift our model into having events. So to me, this is an event. Back there on our table, you can see we have some T-shirts and our journal that you can buy if you'd like. The T-shirts are beautiful, okay? I mean, they're amazing. You want one, I guarantee you. They're inexpensive. And then also, got a QR code right there. You can order it, and it will be mailed to you. We did have a little snafu early on, but we have everything that we need to make sure it goes out very quickly. Also, we learned how to do QR codes so that now if you want to support the comic book, go ahead and click on the QR code. We write grants now. We need the help of the community with helping to make sure that this information gets out. So it's grassroots, like he said. We need help. If you're a grant writer, you can help us. If you have money, you can help us, right? We have scholarships. So we want to make sure that we're able to help the community know about this important historical neighborhood and make sure that the young people have the respect of those elders, it's going to help the entire community.
What's money, right? So Behind the Glass doesn't have a model, so to speak. So we did an ask, just a month ago, 2 months ago, to fund our January reception. And the reason why we did that ask was the artists that have been featured in the space, they're not paid. Richard and I are not paid for curating. We don't take a portion of the proceeds from whatever they sell. And a lot of artists that are featured also are spending the money to print, to frame, and do all of those things. So as we get into the new year, we want to make sure that there's something available, a stipend of some sort. We've partnered with a couple of different folks. Some previous artists have said, hey, I have the capability of printing. This is, what it may cost, and working with some local framers and things like that. So there's no immediate ask, but I would ask that when there is one, to be a part of that and to help continue to really build that ecosystem of artists wanting to stay here in Rochester, wanting to create here in Rochester, to have that support base. Sometimes, you see a photo or a piece of art and it may look nice on your wall. Go ahead and get it. And bring it home and have it on your wall. Because as a practicing artist myself, what happens is it comes back to your house, goes into a box, and it kind of hangs out over in a corner. It'd be beautiful on someone's wall, which I think is important to support the artist in that way.
I want to point out the campaign, Pay Artists. We're talking about a visual artist, but musicians, LED did not work for free tonight. And the dancers that you might see, whether it's bio dance or derivative, other dancers, we have a wealth of dance. Our ballet is incredible, and of course, Garth Fagan is world class and world renowned. So support the arts. Before I open up to Q&A, I want to identify an individual who's in the audience who, in a very short time, has had a great impact upon me. Just infinitesimal compared to its impact upon the community. And I want to honor Dr. Walter Cooper for making the effort to be here tonight. And thank you.
I'm always puzzled about the discussions on Clarissa Street. When I came as a graduate student in 1952 to the University of Rochester, I lived in the third floor. Clarissa Street was my region of operation when I came as a graduate student at the University of Rochester. I'm always somewhat disappointed at the celebrations because I think what is left out is the true representation of Clarissa Street. It was the center of activity in the black community. The president of the Elks, Stanley Thomas, lived on Clarissa Street. You had two physicians. You had Dr. Lunsford, Dr. Jordan were on Clarissa Street. You had the dentist was on Clarissa Street. And you had businesses. Laura and Johnny Pendleton ran a nice restaurant. And you had community supportive organizations functioning on Clarissa Street. And we must remember that Constance Mitchell came out of Clarissa Street, in a sense. In 1959, the primary support for her campaign came out of Clarissa Street. Clarissa Street had musicians, had restaurants, and Dan's restaurant, Laura and Johnny Pendleton's restaurant, and they are hardly mentioned as we reflect on the remembrance of Clarissa Street. It was a center, a community of people who were upward mobility, and who were involved in community activities near and broad. Stanley Thomas, the president of the Elks. The Elks had their own facility on Clarissa Street. And then it evolved into a jazz club on Clarissa Street, which brought in musicians from all over the country. So I think there's a lot that is unspoken about Clarissa Street that brought an element of aggressiveness and also culture to the community. And I don't think we should literally forget the strength and the vision of those who inhabited the Clarissa Street region. I was there as a graduate student at the University of Rochester because of the tremendous housing problems that this community faced. But I think it's great that we're trying to perpetuate the history and hopefully the genuine history of Clarissa Street, its reunions, and its actually focused beginnings of a thriving black community. Thank you.
Oh. So, hi.
Okay, I was going to follow up on what he
Mother or daughter?
I was going to follow up on one of those things, but I will give that to you. So one of the other events that we do that we've worked on is a walking tour. So my mother and George Fontanet, I actually was a part of it just recently. We have a connection with the U of R. The U of R has a graduate class that is taking on our community project for their classroom, for their graduate class, and they were taking down the tour. And during the tour, they get to see exactly what Dr. Cooper just said, where exactly the businesses were, who owned the businesses, what doctors were there, where their houses were. They took us down the street and pointed out every single one of them. It was amazing. That is one of the things that we're trying to put together, and it's difficult. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight, but the idea is to have the ability for you to walk down that street. RIT is working with us as well, where you can take your phone and you can hold your phone up to a building that's there now, and it'll show you what was there before and the information on it. So,
Kathy, you want? And then we're going to wrap up. Here you go, Kathy.
I'm going to say very quickly, I just want everyone to know that we do many walks on Clarissa Street. If you ever get the chance to see the Clarissa Street uprooted, you'll get a good picture of what we're referring to. But we have taken students from Roberts Western College. We've taken bus rides there. So please don't let you leave here without knowing that we want people to humanize Clarissa Street. The people, the business, the community, and not just the fact that we were famous for jazz, because people lived in that Hi!
I saw him enter. Rashad. All right. Thank you. I was just struck by the image of the legendary African struck with the image of the Sankofa bird, a mythical bird that looks in both directions, and it's meant to represent the past and the future. So we have the convergence of the beautiful past with someone who's still making an impact in Rochester and the new Rochester. So I'm glad we highlighted the past. We have rich history of the arts, and you're helping to forge the future of a vibrant arts community. We have so much here. So before we close out and trying to be punctual, I want to give a shout out to Paul Tracy. He was there December 2014 at our first event. Thank you, Paul. And we have I want to thank Native, my friend Wesley behind the bar there. He represents Native Restaurant. I'm not sure if Peter Landers has arrived. He's part of the ownership group, managing partner of this building, and they give this place up for us. And they have, for years. It's just wonderful. Thank you. For free. So and we have Todd Fleming, my teammate. I have Chris Cooley in the back, and Lydia Palmer, and Tom Myers, and Adam is not here, I don't believe. He's preoccupied. Adam, Mike Thaney, who is celebrating the birth of his second child, born yesterday. He's not here. I think he had a priority that surpassed this. So enjoy. We're going to mingle here. There's a cash bar. There's perhaps some food left over. And stay tuned. We do have 2 regular monthly events. You could set your clock to them. We have a first Thursday. We're relocating it from Rock Brewing to Fatty, which is right across the street from the entrance to the Strong Museum. Plenty of parking in the neighborhood. We have one on the 3rd Thursday that is at Bar Bantam. That's called RocGrowth Coffee. The other one is called RocGrowth First Thursday, Creative Collisions. And these are more sporadic, but stay tuned. If you're on our email distribution list, you'll be receiving emails. And if you follow us on social media, we do post on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. So thank you all. Did I omit anyone to thank? Oh, no, thank you.